Being in debt isn't necessarily your fault, but staying in debt, that's 100% on you. If you've decided to free yourself from debt, then that is already a huge step. But here's the thing, you don't need to follow Dave Ramsey's extreme advice to do it. He says if you have any credit card debt, you should never go into a restaurant unless you're working there. He tells people to cut up their credit cards forever and to live on the bare minimum until every penny of debt is gone. Sure, planning for the future is important, but do you have to put your entire life on hold to do it? In this video, I'm going to show you 3 smarter steps to escape debt faster, easier, and without sacrificing your entire life in the process. Let's get into it. Dave Ramsey is the #1 personal finance guru in America. His methods work, no doubt, but only if you're willing to live like a monk for years. Cut up your credit cards, stop eating out, work extra jobs until every penny of debt is gone. That's not a financial plan, that's punishment. And it only works if you have superhuman discipline. But what if you're already working a 9-to-5, taking care of a family, or running a business? You don't have the time to stress over a budget every single day. And you don't need to, because there's a better way, one that actually works for real people. Step 1, set boundaries on your spending without depriving yourself. Debt happens when there are no clear spending boundaries. Many people don't know how much they can afford to spend each month, and credit cards make it so easy to overspend without realizing it. I was thinking literally this morning about this concept of like getting a brand new tube of toothpaste. Most of us, myself included, probably overdo it in the first couple days of having a brand new tube of toothpaste. But you think about getting to the end of that tube, especially if you don't have another one ready to go, you're like getting out the vice grips to squeeze every little last bit out of the toothpaste, right? That is how your bank account works. And so instead, what most people do wrong, in my opinion, is they take whatever they have that's not a bill, and then it's just gonna get spent, instead of systematically taking chunks of money and weekly carving those out to be spent and setting yourself on a rhythm of spending. But here's the fix. Instead of tracking every expense, just use different accounts for different jobs. One account for bills. Think mortgage payment, rent, utilities, loans, subscriptions, money that stays untouched unless it's allocated for a bill. One account for everyday spending. Groceries, going out to eat, the household toiletries, entertainment, things that you want to do week in and week out. And you only spend what's in that account. 3, one account for savings. This builds that cushion so you don't have to rely on your credit cards. Ultimately, this 3-account framework is what I teach all my clients to do. We want to typically get any positive cash flow up into savings automatically because I say all the time, debt is a symptom of a broken system. The 2 things we solve for is a lack of boundaries around spending and a lack of liquid savings. By orchestrating our accounts this way, we make it easy day 1 to get this habit in place to where we have a weekly cash infusion for spending, and then we start to suck the extra money out of the bills account and get it up into the high yield savings so it's out of sight and out of mind. This framework automatically stops overspending without needing to track every single dollar. Once your spending is under control, we move to step 2. Build liquid savings so you never rely on debt again. One of the biggest reasons that people stay in debt is because they have no emergency savings. A surprise bill comes up, boom, credit card debt. Car breaks down, boom, credit card debt. And just like that, the debt cycle repeats itself. Dave Ramsey says to build savings after you're debt free. I think that's backwards. We need the savings first to break that paycheck to paycheck cycle. Here's how. Cut back on small expenses, but in a way that's realistic. Like the joke at my house is, how do we have 10 streaming services when we're only watching 3 of them? So we can cut out that fat, and then we automatically get that savings up into the high yield savings. And the goal is to build up to 1 month of savings before paying extra on debt. And again, there's a lot of things going on here, and I know that feels really aggressive to build 1 month before you really start tackling debt. But the reality is most people are on the debt roller coaster where every time they get a bonus, every time they get another dollar, they feel they have to put it on debt, but they never solve these underlying issues, which means debt will never go away. And we don't want to punish ourselves for being in debt. I think about a lot of the healthiest, fittest people will oftentimes have dessert every day. And so instead of just saying, well, I'm never going to eat sweets ever again, we just have a small amount. And that's what we want to instill with the spending account ideology so that you're able to sustain this way of living your life, because because it doesn't suck. It's not torture. You're not punishing yourself. So we're building this cash so that instead of using a credit card for emergencies, you have the cash ready to go. And once we've built that safety net, it's time for step 3. Pay off debt faster without extreme budgeting. Most debt advice is going to tell you to either pick the debt snowball or the debt avalanche. The snowball method means paying off the smallest debt first based on the account balance. So that means like a $500 credit card is going to get paid first versus a $5,000 credit card, regardless of interest rate, by the way. The avalanche is technically the opposite, which is paying off the highest interest rate first, regardless of account balance. And so here's my take. Dave Ramsey chose the debt snowball because he feels like there is a psychological win with getting a win, paying off one debt. Even if it's teeny tiny, we see the progress that creates a positive feedback loop psychologically, instilling us to keep going. And I love this. And I think this is what I get frustrated about with Dave, because I feel like he's cherry picking the behavior. And so I would take this further and say the behavior that I notice is most people want the least amount of time possible managing their money, AKA don't do a budget, because no one actually wants to. And how can we create a system that works perfectly when we do nothing? That's the ultimate. And that's what I've spent my life building. So again, both the debt snowball, the debt avalanche, both work, but they take forever. And most people quit halfway through because it sucks, because you're punishing yourself this whole time. And no one wants to do that for an indefinite period of time, oftentimes years. Instead, there is a faster way to pay off debt. You move your debt to a lower interest rate option and free up the necessary cash flow so you can actually breathe. So again, going back to psychology, if you've ever read a single productivity book in your life, you've probably heard of the marshmallow test. I feel like they put this in the first chapter, like, in every single book I read on these topics, where they have a group of children back in maybe their like early 1900s, maybe it's like the 90s, I can't remember, but ultimately they have these two groups of kids and they say, hey, you can have one marshmallow now and you can have one marshmallow later. And they just see of these children, oftentimes the kids that like ate both marshmallows when they shouldn't have, they go on to lead lives where they like have no delayed gratification, and that like torpedoes their life and productivity and success and all these other things. And the children supposedly that are able to withstand the gratification, they go on to lead these fulfilling, successful lives, right? And so the idea is that we need to adopt this concept of delayed gratification in order to be successful. The problem is we don't want to punish ourselves for getting into debt. We certainly don't want to reward bad behavior, but I think that there's a happy medium that we can strike where we're able to pay our debt to society, so to speak, by getting out of debt, but in a way that doesn't have to be torture-filled. Here's how we do this. A 401k loan allows you to borrow from yourself without a credit check. This can be great if people have a credit score that is less than rosy. A home equity line of credit. If you own a home, you can use it to pay off high interest debt. This is actually like a debt snowball in one product. Or a personal loan. You can convert your credit card debt to a fixed monthly payment, typically on a 5-year note. And all of these are going to have way better rates than 30% on a credit card. And so that enables us to free up oftentimes hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars of cash flow. And what I advise my clients is, instead of taking the free cash and going full Dave Ramsey mode and paying off every penny at the expense of everything else, we have to get to that 1 month in savings if you're not there already. And then most people have multiple goals that seem disparate. So most people want to build an emergency fund. Most people want to get out of debt. Most people want to build savings buckets, think Christmas or vacations, travel, kids stuff, etc. And most people need to invest. All of these goals are important. And so the challenge is, Dave Ramsey says you can't do anything until you pay off all your debt. The FIRE movement says you can't live your life until you invest every penny, but most people need a happy medium somewhere in the middle. But one of these three tools, sometimes I use multiple tools with a client, they lower your interest rate. So more of your money actually goes to pay off the debt faster. And instead of throwing every dollar at debt, you now have a balanced approach where you can still save, you can still invest, you can still enjoy your life. The big takeaway, debt isn't about numbers, it's about control. The real issue isn't that you're bad with money. The issue is that you're in a system that keeps you stuck. Credit cards encourage overspending. They've literally done studies where the average person spends up to 18% more swiping a credit card than a debit card. The credit card companies know this. Emergencies force you into more debt. If you don't have savings, the only option is typically a credit card. And high interest rates make it nearly impossible to escape this trap. So most of what I think about is how do we stack the deck in our favor to make winning the default option? if we do nothing. So instead of playing by their rules, here's what you do. Control your spending without feeling miserable by just automating a weekly contribution to a new spending account. Save money first so you stop relying on credit, and pay off debt faster by lowering the interest rates. Again, I'm thinking about how it's like the world has a system. The world psychologically has figured out how to drain your wallet by pounding you with 5,000 marketing messages every single day, by allowing you to spend more money than you make with 30% interest as a penalty. Oh, and by the way, conditioning you to think all of that is normal. So my life's work is how do we set up a system, again, stacking the deck in your favor so that your system is better than their system, so that you win, not them. Most people that watch my videos might like it, but they're gonna do nothing. 99% of people that watch personal finance or other personal development content often will just be entertained. But the choice is all yours. I know everything seems hard at the beginning, but small steps take you to real growth. Nothing changes overnight. So following these steps take time, but it's better than doing nothing. Now, this brings us to the end of the video. And if you want to learn more about this concept of saving effortlessly, watch my video on how I helped Dan save $200,000. Thanks for watching.